President Trump is meeting with his cabinet right now after marking 100 days in office. The president opened that meeting by touting his accomplishments, then blamed the Biden administration for the latest GDP.
Sorry, the groomer is here. Guy is getting groomed. Friday going to be the Super Bowl for the unemployed? True.
Report showing the U.S. economy shrank in the first quarter.
Probably saw some number.
They're replacing Connolly with someone even older? Oh my God, shut up. 87-year-old Holmes Norton eyes bid to lead No, this is a joke, I think. That's got to be a joke. There's no way. That's got to be someone joking. Someone jokingly dropped that as a meme in Axios. Like a Democrat staffer is making a joke, I think. There's no way, dude. Dude, that is so... Oh my God. That is so insane. What the It's who Connolly named as his successor? Are they just like... Do they hear our criticisms and they laugh at us behind closed doors? What's happening? Do they just... They're like, oh, they thought we couldn't go older. No. Is the Democrat stationed in the Vatican? No, this is incredible stuff. This is fantastic. You don't get it? We need someone who still remembers the Nazis personally. He's the man for this very short moment. This is incredible. 2 L's on Connolly, right? I'm not going to listen to the funny Steven Crowder song, okay? Stop sending it to me. We're in the news now. We're in the news portion.
Numbers today, and I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January. This is the quarterly numbers, and we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy, destroying our country in so many ways. Not only at the border was more obvious, but we took over his mess in so many different ways.
And I want to bring in our senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang, because Selena, the president also said if you take out some of these numbers, GDP is actually up, and he touted investments in the U.S. What do you make of his explanation for this GDP report compared to what economists are saying?
Well, look, the president is blaming the GDP report as well as the stock market on former President Biden. But most economists agree that the drop in consumer confidence, the volatility in the stock market, and this economic slowdown that we're seeing is a result of the president's chaotic tariff policy that has been on again, then off again, then on again. Now, these are sweeping tariffs that the president has imposed, and it's led many companies to rush to get ahead of these tariffs, surging imports of goods from abroad. And a lot of companies have been on edge as well. Many businesses have been put on pause, and these China tariffs are especially damaging for companies that rely on trade between these two countries. Many small businesses, large businesses, as well as U.S. farmers. We've currently got 145% on many tariffs coming in, many goods coming in from China, and then China has imposed 125% tariffs on goods going from the U.S. into China, which is primarily agricultural goods. Now, our Terry Moran pressed the president on this issue yesterday, saying that for some of these American businesses, they're facing the possibility of extinction. The president brushing those concerns off, saying that everything is going to be fine. This administration continues, Diane, to maintain the position that any of this short-term pain is worth the long-term gain of revitalizing American manufacturing. The president also posting on Truth Social today, telling Americans to be patient.
Selena, the president talked a lot about China, as you say. One of the things he really wanted to emphasize here was the elimination of the de minimis tariff exemption, and that's on sort of smaller imports. They're saying that this is helping small businesses. What did you make of that exchange with the Commerce Secretary?
So in specific...
Can I just show you the stupidity of conservatives really quickly for a brief moment? I just want you to see something very stupid. Okay? I know we've moved on, and it's not drama related or whatever, but like, I need you to see something very funny that I just saw in my replies. Okay? So I posted when Ethan was falsely claiming that Nelson Mandela never engaged in violence. I posted this. I said, falsely claiming that Nelson Mandela never engaged in violence to end the apartheid is ahistorical nonsense. He was offered a commutation of a sentence if he disavowed violent resistance twice. He refused, extending his prison sentence twice. Here's also in 1999, Nelson Mandela, the late and great Nelson Mandela, visiting Gaza and saying, choose peace rather than confrontation, except in cases where we cannot move forward. Then, if the only alternative is violence, we will use violence.
Rather than confrontation. except in cases where we cannot proceed, where we cannot move forward. Then, if the only alternative is violence.
This guy said, you keep being obsessed with Jews, huh? Yeah, dude. That's what it is. You got me. That's why I'm obsessed with Israel, and not because it's doing a genocide right now with my tax dollars.
We will use violence.
His comments won him applause from leader Yasser Arafat and...
Anyway, this guy, this is my favorite thing that conservatives do, where they go to Grok. You can't stop being obsessed with Israel, huh? Yeah, how dare Jews fight against Islamists instead of letting them destroy them? Yeah, we got it, dude. Your racism is in full display. The notion that... the notion that like Islamists would destroy Israel. So anyway, the point I was making is, or what I wanted to show you is, conservatives love relying on Grok because they can't think for themselves. And I feel like it's very stupid to just like openly admit defeat, that a machine that has the capacity to lie, by the way, will with regular frequency, with regular frequency going to a machine to be like, is this person wrong, to prove a point. There has to be an account at this point of like Grok conservative self-owns, because I see this so frequently. I see it so goddamn frequently where people will just be like, Grok, is he lying? And then Grok will be like, no, he's not lying. And it's such a hilarious thing. He's like, Grok, what logical fallacies are in this post? Why don't you try to make it up? Why? The post by Hassan the Hunt contains no logical fallacies. It refused to claim that Nelson Mandela never engaged in violence with evidence, citing his refusal to disavow violent resistance and a quote supporting the violence when necessary. This avoids fallacies like strawman, ad hominem, or false dilemma, as it directly addresses the claim with historical facts. Mandela's role in the founding of Umkhonto we Sizwe, I'm going to butcher that, MK, and his stance during imprisonment to support the argument. This post is focused and evidence-based, maintaining logical coherence. Ironically, Grok is smarter than most of those people. Yeah, of course they are, dude. Of course. These people are so dumb that they're relying on a chatbot. That's my point. I'm saying you are the lowest of the low at that point. Like you're literally saying a goddamn machine that has the capacity to be wrong, by the way, and still tell you with 100% certainty the wrong information is smarter than you. Think for yourself. Why do you need a machine to think for you? Wait, he doubled down, refresh. Shut up. He responded to Grok by being like, F you, you're wrong. Don't worry, there's other low-hanging fruit. There are so many people like this now. It's so sad. What? You're right. There are bigger issues to tackle here. Mandela's support for arms resistance against apartheid is well documented. He co-founded MK and refused to renounce violence for his freedom. The low-hanging fruit might be the debated comparison between South African apartheid and Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or myths about Mandela being purely nonviolent. His 1999 Gaza visit, backing peace, but justifying violence when necessary, fuels these discussions. Let's focus on those broader points. Even when he's like trying to double down, the Grok is like, no, actually, focus on the broader points here. The comparison is apt.
That de minimis exemption, closing that trade loophole that allows goods valued at less than $800 to come into the U.S. tariff-free, that really hurts some Chinese companies like the e-commerce retailers, Shein and Temu. Both of those companies have said that they're going to have to raise prices. In fact, they've already started raising prices because of that. Now, some would argue that this actually does benefit some American firms. Fast fashion retailer Forever 21, when they were closing stores, said that part of the reason was that they couldn't compete with these fast fashion, cheap e-commerce retailers from China that were benefiting from this loophole. But the president there, in the cabinet room, he also talked about how China is getting hammered by his tariffs. This does come as China's factory activity slipped to the worst contraction since December 2023, as China is grappling with these very steep tariffs from the United States. But the president, he also reiterated that we're talking to China. Now, Beijing has repeatedly said that they are not talking to the United States when it comes to trade. So it's still unclear at this point if negotiations between these two countries are even happening.
All right, Selena Wang, thank you. And a new report says the U.S. economy shrank for the first time since the pandemic. The GDP decreased at an annual rate of 0.3% since the beginning of January. That's the first drop in 3 years. Let's bring in chief economist at Numerator, Leo Feller, for more. Leo, thanks for coming back on. Always great to have you unpack these things with us. So as you heard me saying with Selena, President Trump says this GDP report is a result of the Biden administration. What's your take on his comments, his explanation, and what he's saying that if you remove some of these numbers, we're actually up?
Well, let's look at the data. So the data itself is telling us that in 2024, every single quarter of 2024, the economy was actually growing. And every single quarter of 2023, the economy was actually growing. It's really this first quarter of 2025 that the economy has shrank. And granted, this is a negative 0.3. This is basically flat. And it suggests that consumers, that businesses are basically just waiting to see what's going to happen next. This really looks like it's something that has been happening much more recently in the past couple of months, as consumers have been stating that they're increasingly nervous, they're increasingly pessimistic about job prospects, about income growth, and businesses themselves have announced that they are uncertain about how much they will be able to sell in the future, given how much policy change has occurred just in the past 2 months.
So, big picture, why is GDP dropping, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, listen, the big thing is that consumers have slowed how much they're spending, right? So spending is still up, but they're slowing it down. Businesses have imported quite a bit, right? And that's to try to front run these tariff increases. So if you think about, right, tariffs coming into place or already in place for products from China, businesses have tried to get ahead of this by bringing a lot of those imports in and boosting their inventories. Right now, I mean, businesses are basically saying, they tried to do this front loading, but we're even seeing in other data shipments from China drop substantially, which suggests that businesses have already done a lot of this front loading and they're stopping to bring in, new goods, given the high tariff rates that are in place right now.
So oh, sorry, Leo, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying there's not much that we can do about it now, given the policies that are in place. I think given the data that we're seeing, we'll probably just have some empty shelves coming into June and July as businesses have not been able to bring in new goods.
Does this offer any more fuel to recession fears?
I think we are at a tipping point where we can go into a recession, but we are really at that margin where it's possible to still step back and continue to have economic growth. If we continue down this trajectory of tariff wars, of threatening Federal Reserve independence and creating economic uncertainty, then I do think that we tip into a recession at the later half of this year.
All right, Leo Feller, always great to have you, Leo. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
President Trump marked the 100th day of his second term with a campaign-style rally in Michigan last night. He used most of the speech to attack his opponents and then boast about his actions in office so far, even as the polls show that he is losing a lot of support. He also had a very public dispute yesterday with one of the tech titans who stood behind him at his inauguration. Ed O'Keefe covered the rally for us. He's in Detroit with the latest. Ed, good morning to you.
Gail, good morning. The president back out on the campaign trail sounding familiar themes, suggesting that his term so far has been a success, despite the fact that his approval ratings on the slide and some tough economic reality.
Hello, Michigan.
100 days in, President Trump back in campaign mode, rallying his supporters in a battleground state.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years.
Recent CBS News polling shows immigration remains among the issues the president scores best on, so it's no surprise he talked it up.
You finally have a president who is defending our borders and our nation.
But in a striking moment, the American president used propaganda video shot by the El Salvadoran government to show how he's deported undocumented immigrants to that Central American nation.
How is going from a projected 4% growth to an actual -4? No, 0.5% growth, not 0.4% growth, considered flat? It's because the diminished, like the shrinkage in the GDP is minor, and they're trying to navigate around that conversation to the best of their ability, because that's what mainstream media does. They try to normalize everything that you're experiencing so you don't like collapse and freak out and go, oh my God, we're in a recession. What the is going on? Yes, Donald Trump is so bad at his job, though, that Donald Trump is so bad at his job that it's becoming increasingly more difficult every waking moment to manage. It's really, really hard to do propaganda that like even tries to maintain a sense of normalcy around Donald Trump and his actions. If you remove the numbers, the economy is up. The brandonization of Trump continues. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's less shipments coming in. I see it every day since I work in logistics. It's bad. I do feel like one day I won't be asked to come into work. Yeah, that's what's coming.
President's milestone day came as consumer confidence plunged again in April amid concerns about his planned tariffs. But Trump came to Michigan with relief for automakers. They'll still face a 25% tariff on imported cars and parts, but not an additional tariff on other critical materials, including steel and aluminum. And in an interview, he defended his decision to impose 145% tariffs on China.
They were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off.
The president argues his policies will end up benefiting auto workers like Scott Duty and Tabitha Noble, who were
What does the brandonization of Trump mean exactly? So Donald Trump has always been like crazy, says insane stuff, and then will say, "Oh, I didn't mean it," whatever, right? He'll make incredible mistakes, and then he'll try to package it as like something that he did deliberately, and then he'll come across like he solved the issue that he created. All that stuff is normal. Brandonization is something a little bit different. It's becoming senile. I think that his more erratic behavior this time around shows a little bit of Brandonization, but last night he went full Brandon. When we were watching that ABC interview, I realized like he has gone full Brandon. It's not even half measures, no half Brandon, full Brandon with the MS-13 tattoo stuff. We'll get to that in a second. It basically bricked my brain when I saw the tattoo stuff and him defending it and being like, no, the tattoos say MS1 and 3. It's obvious. Like that was a full Brandon moment, and it's been kind of scary to experience. The 5 are defending it. I think that they will try to defend it. Yeah, they'll try to defend it. And maybe Trump will come out and do plausible deniability later. But if he doubles down again and says, no, that's what the letters imply, it's full tilt. Full Brandonian. We're doing full Brandon. Not half Brandon, full Brandon, real dark Brandon shit. It was like the Hamas beheading babies Brandon moment. Yeah. Yeah. It was his beheaded babies. The difference, however, it's even worse than that because like there was a collective interest in a lot of people that Hamas actually decapitated babies. Like they wanted to believe that because they wanted to be so vicious to the Palestinians. In this circumstance, there's a lot of people who want to be vicious to undocumented migrants, but like it's worse than a Photoshop. There was like a Photoshop, there was an AI image out there of like beheaded babies or whatever that people were posting. Maybe somehow in the most charitable way possible, I'm saying like that got to Brandon, right? But in this situation, it's like so clearly Donald Trump looking at a photo where they just did this crude, this is like very crude MS paint job on top of this dude's like actual knuckles. And it was just an overlay, and no one was supposed to even think that it was anything but an overlay. And he unironically, I think, thinks it's an overlay. It's not an overlay. He thinks it's unironically tattoos. Huh? She's being groomed. Yeah.
Furloughed just before Trump took office. Right now, they're feeling the pinch.
What does that then cause you to have to worry about in terms of costs on a day-to-day basis?
Well, just daily living, and your food went up, gas went up, our wages went down.
Utility bills have went up, groceries have went sky high.
Both agree tariffs could eventually bring more jobs to the U.S., but there's currently uncertainty.
State of the economy right now, in your view, here in Michigan is?
Not very good. Unemployment's went up. Every day, somebody's closing their doors because nobody's going in to buy anything. They can't afford to stay open.
Even with consumer confidence levels dropping to its lowest level in 5 years since the beginning of the pandemic, the president pushed back in that interview over the idea that the economy is in tough shape. He admitted there could be a transition period, would be a transition period, but said everything is, quote, headed in the right direction. Tony?
Ed, while we have you, what more can you tell us about this White House disagreement with Amazon? It led to a call, apparently, from President Trump.
Yeah, it all started with a report that Amazon was going to start publishing on its site the cost of things and what exactly was costing you because of the tariffs. And that, of course, caused the White House to get quite upset. They called it a hostile and political act. Amazon later claimed this was only an idea for its Amazon Haul site for the lower cost items and that it was never actually implemented. Before coming here to Michigan, the president said he gave Jeff Bezos a call and that they were able to quickly sort out the issue.
This genre is so boring. Talking to Trump supporters and saying, do you feel stupid for voting for him? I disagree. I think it gives a little bit of catharsis. Like it's basically red meat for the libs, you know? It's just like, well, okay, what do you do now? It also shows that there might be some discontent amongst the Trump supporters in general. So that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I don't know. Is this deeply disturbing? I actually want to hear from people who say, no, I still love my president. That's what I think is the better, that's the funnier content for me. I want to hear a guy who's like, my entire career is over. Okay. You don't understand. I literally am a drop shipper and Donald Trump single-handedly ruined my career. I will never in a million years, I will never be able to recover from this financially. And then they go, do you hate that you voted for him? And he's like, no, I love him. I think I deserve less. I am filth. I'm a filthy little piglet who lives in filth and shit and piss. I am not worthy. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear from who are like, I will vote for him again. I hope he is president in 2028.
Critics suggest that this is yet another example of corporate leaders bending to the president's will. Tony?
All right, Ed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This is an ABC News.
Now, this right here is the juicy shit, okay? Come on, Asmongold isn't a dropshipper. Asmongold doesn't care. If tomorrow Trump fell out of fashion, he would also start finding a way to change his narrative on it. He just goes along with the wave, dude. He goes along with the meta. And the tide is shifting already. Look at this. We have 41,000 people in here, partially because a lot of you are drama-obsessed perverts, but, don't worry. The tide shift is coming. Just like I said, after October 7th, 30% of this community left. What happened? They came back, okay? People inevitably arrive when history vindicates me over and over again. People inevitably go, okay, maybe I was wrong about this. Let me hear someone else's opinion. Maybe this guy that I thought was a douchebag and wrong about everything and gay and lame is actually not so wrong about this stuff. Let me hear him out. Half of this community is people like that at some point realized maybe it wasn't the best idea to support Donald Trump. It'll be just like when Asman pretended to care during BLM and COVID. Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about, he doesn't have real political opinions. Like he's just going along with, he's chasing a meta.
Special from inside the White House.
When you stepped back in the Oval Office after you were reelected,
right?
What went through your mind? Triumphant when you walk back?
Yes, there's a feeling of triumph.
President Donald J. Trump on his 100th day in office from the #1 issue,
My uncle posted this on Facebook. Okay, I'm not
some people
clicking
who
that.
voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually.
To immigration.
It is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at
I'm mostly trying to convince my lesbian femme studies PhD friend that you are socially acceptably misogynistic. I'm sorry. That's probably not going to work. Like, that's not going to happen, I don't think. I'll be honest with you. As you have probably an easier time convincing a Trump supporter who's like super reactionary to look into what I'm saying and agree with me than a person with convictions to that degree. Like they've literally studied it. Sam is cooking. H3 fan close to 10 years here. Kind of a wake up call for me. Yeah, of course. Come on, dude. What do you think? This is how he is. This is how he has kept his community as like one note, as an echo chamber. Insta lock. I don't think you're misogynistic. You're just that you're a man. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to say that I don't have moments, but we're all imperfect. Wait, so an educated person wouldn't like you? Is this a cell phone or were you joking? No, someone specifically educated with a PhD on gender studies that thinks I'm misogynistic will most likely, if they already have that opinion, they're not going to change that opinion. Especially because, like, the irony, of course, is that my goal isn't to get someone like that on board anyway. What do I always say? If you're trans and you hear me talk about trans people, that's not for you. That's for transphobic people. You know, if you're black and you hear me talk about black liberation, that's not for you. I'm talking to white people and non-black people who have anti-black tendencies, anti-black opinions. That's it. Not this account either. Make a new one. What is this? No, they were both right and agreed. He just didn't agree that you were a piece of shit because he doesn't know the details of what's been done that led to the CPS in human skulls and such. Wait. Come on. We have to. This is fascinating. Dude, Ethan Klein fans at this point are fascinating. You know I know Sam personally, right? Like for years at this point. Ethan himself didn't actually think that Sam was going to be as contentious. So you won't listen to Black Chatters? Got it? Yes. That was my point. Yeah. You didn't I don't think you understood the point that I was making. Oh, you joke. Okay. Imagine someone saying, I have moments of racism, I'm not perfect. You would not let this shit fly for anyone else. It's why my friends who like your political takes find you hard to watch. What? Imagine. Wait, what do you mean? No, there definitely can be an instance where I will be off base. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. On every issue. Yes. I can come across as transphobic or racist in certain circumstances. Yes, that is not, I'm a human being. My friends who are women and myself sometimes. No, you thought you could catch me in this to be like, misogyny is an acceptable bigotry for you as opposed to all these other bigotries. No, I'm saying I'm not perfect. I'm imperfect. There were absolutely be instances where I get something wrong. What the Also, the fact that you're my friends who are women. I'm not a woman, but I have women friends. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, you are a woman. My bad. See, there's that misogyny again. I just assumed you weren't a woman. It was partially because I thought it was a silly argument. And I did not want to attribute a silly argument to a woman. All right. My food is here and I'm cracking my knuckles. It's time to get into it. It's time to dive in. Chatter's low-key right, though. Not exactly easy to show your content to women. Okay. Fine. Like, yes. Listen, there is one quality to me that I will never be able to change. I am a man. And not only a man, but a man that exhibits a lot of tendencies that maybe some people might consider, depending on their own perspective, their own lived experiences, somewhat toxic. Okay? I can't change that. That's who I am. And guess what? I'm not going to change that. So if you have an issue with that, then yeah, take it up to a bisexual lighting infused bread tuber. Okay? There's plenty of them out there. Go listen to them then. Why the are you here? Go listen to women. God damn. If you think someone like myself is exhibiting like, you know, impossible to contend with levels of misogyny, then there are a million different content creators out there that I think would be better for you. Okay. I can't change your mind because I think a part of that is not coming from a place of like real issues. Chat really talking like you insult women all day, every day. I know. Like you're making it seem like a big part of my commentary revolves around saying women ain't shit. Like as a bisexual woman, these chatters are just on one is so stupid. Yeah. I'm an AFAB Emmy person and everyone I know that watches you is a woman or trans. The only women that shouldn't like you are radfems or woke of the day types. Yeah. That's basically it. Anyway, let's continue. I got to stop. I did talk to one woman whose opinion I do care about quite a bit, even though I jokingly say she's my enemy, Maya Higa, who revealed to me that she actually watches me and said that I get one guide far too much and I pause far too much when there's a video that we should be watching and she gets annoyed and she's like, please unpause the video. So, in honor of Maya Higa, I am going to unpause this video and I'm going to try to not get one guide, okay? I know many of you want this to be an opportunity where you come in and say, well, I'm a woman and you ain't shit. You're actually a misogynistic piece of shit or something along those lines. It's cool. I'm not going to entertain it right now. Maybe later. Okay? And to all of the male followers that came in here because they thought that I was an enemy of women. Okay? I'm sorry to disappoint you. Come back tomorrow.